Hey, what's up, friends? You got Gypsy back here today, bringing you week 4 of the CPC. And this week we're going up against my friend Paul. Awesome dude. Really solid player, actually. He's in the GPC as well as the CFA, as well as the CPC. So three different leagues, and he's just tearing it up. He's doing really well in the GPC, proving that he's a threat over there. And yeah, he's got a really awesome team in the CPC. As you guys can see here, he's got the Mega Guard. He's just got a crazy offensive team, like Mega Guard, Inferno, Gladios, Nidoking. And then he's got stuff like Shaman too. You see he's got the Liepard there. He has a lot of threats on his team, and it's very hard to build for, especially when you have like quite like a slower team. So yeah, he's definitely got an awesome team. Great. I really like the way Paul drafts. He always drafts like mad teams. The dude knows how to draft for sure. And yeah, so we always have great matches. Like me and Paul, they're always like nail biters. And this game is no different. So we'll just jump into the team that I've brought today. First up, we have an AV Reuniclus, so predominantly here to take on like a special offensive Nidoking, as well as the Mega Guard. The Mega Guard is its main priority. With its investment, it can switch into Hyper Voices with ease. I'm Regenerator, so I can recover some HP on the switch out. I can basically recover off the Hyper Voice damage. Like, this Reuniclus set is so fat that it can come in, tank a Hyper Voice, and then switch out and actually recover off like the exact amount that it took from the Hyper Voice. So it's pretty great in that regard. But it is obviously vulnerable to hazards like Stealth Rocks and Toxic Spikes and things of that nature, as well as status, because I am not Magic Guard. This is like, you know, a team like mine, like you need a Mega Guard answer, and like this was my Mega Guard answer. I can't have like a Sharpedoes Mega Scizor because he could easily just run HP Fire or Willow, and completely new to that. And Scizor is such a win con in this game. As you guys can see, like it may not look like a win con at first glance, but it has the potential to do a lot of work. Paul also had Feraligatr on his team, so if you guys can imagine, like his roster is just like it's insane. It's so powerful. So I had to take those all into account when building, and yeah, so Sharpedoes for Reuniclus is pretty important. Also checks like a special Infernape quite well, and quite easily checks a Life Orb or Specs Laddie, unless it elects to go for something like a Shadow Ball. I can easily come in and tank a Draco and force the switch out. And I've got knockoff this week. Knockoff for things like, you know, incoming switch-ins like a Laddie or something like that. Just being able to knock off the item is going to be really nice. I'm running Psychic, I'm running Shadow Ball, and then I'm running Infestation. The point of Infestation is to basically trap like an incoming mon, like basically like what I want to do with this Reuniclus is trap the Registeel with Infestation on the switch in, and then proceed to switch out into my Golurk and setup, which, as you know, we'll get to that when we get there. But basically, Registeel is a great setup fodder for my Golurk, and if I can manage to trap him with Infestation, then I get a free switch. He can't switch out. I predict him to make a switch because he's locked in due to Infestation. So that's the game plan behind that. Next up, as I said, we've got offensive Mega Scizor, because Bullet Punch just mercs his team. Everything that it doesn't merc, you know, we do have coverage, and we do have other mons to take it on. So basically, like if you look at his team, Infernape is a great check to Scizor, but apart from that, like he doesn't really have much for it. He has like, if it's an offensive Nidoking, then it risks getting 2-hit KO'd by offensive, by my max attack Bullet Punch, depending on his spread. You see he's got the Registeel there, which obviously is a roadblock to Mega Scizor, but I am packing the superpower, so if I can get him to a range of health and determine that he's not Chople Berry, if I can get him a range of health to die from a max attack superpower, then he will go down. But obviously we have quite a few ways to check the Registeel, as you'll see. We've got a couple, we don't have quite a few, but we have a couple. And then we've got U-turn on there for momentum grabbing. If I do want to be wild and like U-turn, say he's in on the Mega Guard, and like I have the option of going for BP, but he also has an Inferno chilling in the back, which by all means could be a physically defensive set. I can go for the U-turn and grab momentum into something like Kyurem or my Sleuking, which is going to be really nice. But yeah, I'm probably going to be clicking Bullet Punch or U-turn mostly. I won't reveal Superpower unless I need to. You know, I probably won't get a chance to reveal Superpower unless I'm in a situation where I predict him to make switches into Infernape or Registeel. But yeah, U-turn is probably the move I'll be clicking the most, or BP. Next up we have my specially offensive Kyurem. It does a lot of work versus this team. However, it doesn't outspeed the guard and the laddie, which are obviously threats, but we do have Reuniclus to comfortably check those two. Defensively anyway, can't do a ton to them offensively because it is so specially invested in defense, but it can still act as like a soft defensive check to those. So Kyurem is basically here to, I've got Shuffle, so I can tank a close combat or a focus blast from Infernape, and if he goes for CC, then he loses to Earth Power that turn. And Earth Power is just really nice to weaken down the Registeel, because if I can weaken down the Registeel enough, like Carmine Sylveon has an easier time versus his team, as well as my Sizzle, as well as Reuniclus, because Registeel is a roadblock to Reuniclus obviously, as well as Sylveon. So Earth Power, while it will do like basic fuck all to Registeel because it's so bulky, having the ability to do a nice like 30 to 35 40% with the Earth Power on the switch in is very nice, because he has to switch into Registeel. Like, as you guys can see, Earth Power and Ice Coverage do a lot to his team. Like, if he's in on a Nidoking, I don't even have to predict. Like, I can just click Earth Power and it will do decent damage to something on his team. Like, if he wants to switch in guard, that's fine. He guarantees to be in range of BP after taking an Earth Power, even if he's like a defensive spread. So that is really nice. Like, Kyurem, like, while it doesn't look like amazing on paper just due to his offense, it does outspeed things like the Nidoking, it outspeeds the Feraligatr, and it applies a lot of offensive pressure on his team. And it's quite bulky. My spread is bulky enough to, I did think he would bring a physical Nidoking this game, purely because like it can break a potential like Spidef Slowking. It can break even a physically defensive Sylveon with like max attack, Life Orb, Poison Jab, and it can potentially break like an AV Tangrowth with the Poison Jab too, as well as being able to Mega Horn a Reuniclus. So I was thinking like a physically offensive Nidoking was very possible, and the fact that like physical Nidoking's moves aren't really boosted by sheer force due to things like, I mean, Poison Jab is, but stuff like Earthquake and Sucker Punch, they're not boosted by sheer force like its special set is, so it's a bit easier to check with my Kyurem, as Kyurem is just so bulky, especially on the physical side. And then next up we have my physically defensive Slowking, here to take on the Infernape, here to essentially check most variants of Infernape, unless he is like a special variant and he gets the +2, or he's like a physical variant and he crits me with +2 Thunder Punch or something like that, or his Iron Fist with like Adamant, like Life Orb that may 2KO after rocks. That probably does 2KO after rocks actually, so that is obviously something I have to watch out for. But if I like stop Infernape from having the opportunity to set up, then Slowking is a great check to it. Slowking is also a nice check to the physically offensive Nidoking, as even a Mega Horn can't do all that much to my physically defensive Slowking, unless he's like a Life Orb variant, which he could be. And then we have my physically defensive, predominantly physically defensive Sylveon, who is here to take on this the Laddie, as it's a pretty nice switch into Psyshocks. It takes under 50. I can Wish Protect on that thing. As I said, I have Calm Mind, so I can potentially beat like a Gardevoir. I can potentially beat like a special Nidoking after a couple of boosts, unless I get crit. And Sylveon is quite nice versus his team. Hyper Voice is pretty free, except he does have the Registeel, as I said, but like I have multiple means of chipping down the Registeel, and I have safe switches to it in the form of Sizzle and Golurk. So next up, the last member in the team we have is Golurk, and Golurk is here to set up rocks. And then I've got Earthquake and Shadow Punch, and I'm carrying the Iron Fist this week, and the reasoning behind this is that the Iron Fist boosted Shadow Punch does kill the Laddie, and it does kill the guard after rocks, and I've got the Rock Polish on this set too, so if I can set up a Rock Polish on this stuff like the Registeel, then I can sweep his team. I am Colberberry, so a Sucker Punch from the Liepard won't be taking me out. I also have Trick Room on Slowking, so basically like Golurk can sweep in one of two ways. It can either sweep under Trick Room, as it is slower than everything on his team barring the Registeel, but that can't threaten me offensively. And then I can, if I get like a Trick Room up late game, I can potentially sweep with my Colberberry Golurk, or I can set up a Rock Polish, and after a Rock Polish I outspeed everything on his team barring Scarfers. So that is another thing, that is a way that it can put in the work. So yeah, Golurk could potentially put in work, it might not, but if I can get a chance to set up either a Trick Room or a Rock Polish, then yeah, it's definitely looking pretty good for Golurk. So I've talked for like 10 minutes, so I'm sorry for wasting all that of your time, guys. But we'll jump into the match. I felt as though it was necessary to go into detail on the team building for this match because Paul's a very good player, and yeah, I guess I'm pretty proud of this team. But anyway, we'll jump into it. Looking at his team, I actually led with Slowking, and the reason I did this was if he was like a Sash, I had this thought that he may be like Sash Endeavor. Stealth Rocks Inferno, which was pretty dumb, as he does have a Registeel, which is more than likely a Stealth Rocks variant, and that would just be a kind of waste of Inferno's potential. But I didn't want to risk it. I just wanted to go straight into Slowking and set up a Trick Room on first turn in case he was that Sash variant, in which case I could basically counter that. But you'll see he leads off with his Registeel, and as I lead off with my Slowking. And the reason that I'm like not even too fussed about this is, whilst like leading off with Golurk would have been nice, like I wouldn't have lost like all that momentum first turn, just preventing him from potentially being that Infernape set, which would have like weakened such a huge member of my team in Slowking, or anything else for that matter that I led with. I didn't want to risk it, and you know, just in case, it's better to be safe than sorry. And in this situation, like I have a pretty free switch of the Golurk anyway. Like I lose a bit of momentum because he gets rocks up first, but now I can just set up rocks on my own. As he opts to go right out into his Liepard. Interesting play. Like I guess he predicted me to like, I'm not sure, because if I was no guard dynamic punch, then he would have just dropped that. He would have dropped to an Earthquake too, if I'm considering I'm max attack. But I don't know. I guess my man Paul just predicted maybe like a double or something, or I'm not sure. You have to listen to his commentary because he will obviously have his thought process behind why he did this play. And I definitely recommend you guys to go and watch it because Paul's a great guy and he makes awesome content. So back to the battle. I'm just going to switch right out here and just go into my Scissor, predicting the knockoff. As now I'm in a situation where I can either roost up or I can go for the U-turn to maintain momentum, which I choose to go for the U-turn. It wasn't worth showing off Superpower here yet. I contemplated going for Superpower because that would have put, like if he decided to switch out to his Registeel, that would have severely weakened it. But again, Registeel is pretty safe setup for Golurk, so I don't necessarily even want that thing gone out of the way yet. I do want to maintain momentum, and he does make the good middle ground play going into Nidoking, just in case I did have Superpower predicting either the Infernape or the Registeel that come in there. So very good play by Paul, as I do go for the U-turn, and I get a crit. But this crit damage is like it's not that, you'll see during the match, like it's not that pivotal, but it does reveal to me that he's definitely like max HP, as that crit only did 39%, and even though it's a resisted hit, I am a max like attack adamant Mega Scissor, and that's a U-turn, that's a crit. So yeah, he's definitely like a bulkier Nidoking, which is very interesting. I don't think he's invested in speed in this case, and the reason for this is like he doesn't need speed to outspeed anything that he would naturally outspeed. Like Kyurem outspeeds him naturally, so I feel as though he is probably like a bulky attacker variant, like maybe max attack, max HP, and that will be confirmed later on in the match. So I just go right out here. I go out into my Kyurem, knowing that he's not a Scarf variant, obviously. So even if he was, it wouldn't have done anything to Kyurem because of its bulk. And I know I just fire off an Earth Power, and I get a crit on this Earth Power. And this is, I get a crit speed F drop, which is definitely unfortunate for Paul. And that was really dumb. He actually had a Sugar Berry, so I popped a Sugar Berry, which is nice because now Golurk can guarantee take him out with an Earthquake. However, this kind of forces him to switch out at this point, and I just stay and hit Earth Power once more. Like I could have stayed in and gone for like an Ice Beam, like predicting his Laddie, but he also could have gone out to something like Guard. He also could have just stayed in and hit me with like a T-Wave or an Iron Head, and it just wasn't worth it. Like at that range of health, he died at -1 to an Earth Power, so Earth Power just staying in was my safest play. Like I don't really need to overpredict at this point. I can play relatively safe as my defensive switch-ins are still relatively healthy, so just getting a bit of chip off on the Latios is pretty nice for me. As now I just go right out into my Reuniclus on his Draco, and as you guys see, that Draco does not do all that much to Reuniclus. That damage reveals that he's actually modest. He's not carrying the Life Orb, but that is modest damage. So he goes out into his Liepard, as I double out into my Sylveon, catching the Liepard, just in case, like, you know, I figured like him going out to Liepard was pretty obvious there, as like if I went for something like Shadow Ball or Knockoff, he could potentially Pursuit Trap me the next turn, so it just wasn't like worth it staying in. And the fact that he was at -2, like Sylveon effortlessly walls Laddie anyway, but the fact that he's at -2 means it's just that much easier. So he switches out here and goes back out to his Registeel, so I just fire off a Hyper Voice. The reason for this is if he wanted to stay and be wild and go for the gunk shot, I wouldn't have done like all that much, and I would have guaranteed the knockout on Lipard, meaning goal lurk was guaranteed, like a far easier sweep like game. Just getting rid of this thing, because this is the only thing that really stands in goal lurk's way. So now I go into goal lurk as he goes for the toxic. Like I did contemplate going for the protector just to scout for the status, but I felt as though like he may just I don't know, he may go for something like the rest, or like he may start like amnesiaing up, or like iron defensing or something of that nature, and getting Golik in right away just to prevent any shenanigans from the potential recovering Registeel was, I felt, my best play at that point in time. So he switches out here and goes onto his Latios. Now this was a tough one, because like I could have rock polished this turn, and I was very very tempted to rock polish this turn, but again he has this guy in the back, and if Lipard had switched in, I don't know, predicting me to go for the rock polish, he could have encored me. He could have whilst I do have my Colberry, like he could have encored me with his prankster ability. So yeah, it was pretty tough that turn. Like it was a 50-50, and like we didn't win that one. So he brings in the Laddie here, and I can just switch right back out into my Sylveon, predicting him to Draco here, as I did show Reuniclus to be my switch in last time, and we do get that right. As now I wanted to wish here, but I wasn't sure if he was like the fact that he switched out last time, he could potentially be a Scarf to Modest set, which outspeeds my Kyurem, but it was more than likely he was a Berry. As you guys can see, he goes for the Psyshock here, and whilst I would have loved to have wished, I didn't want to waste momentum by like wishing up as he went out into something like a Guard, or even something like Nidoking, because if I had wished that turn, I would have been forced to pass out into something and potentially get crit. And I don't know the full Nidoking set yet, so I just wanted to get a bit more chip damage, putting it in range to guarantee die from my Mega Sizzle's Bullet Punch. As you guys see, Psyshock does 34 there, so still eating it up, still not that much damage, and Sylveon can still take a hit for sure. So right here again, I just switch out to Slowking. Whilst I could have protected to get another 6% from lefties, I didn't want to risk him being Toxic Spikes at this point, and the reason I say this is because I've confirmed that he's a bulky set, like he's definitely max HP. I don't know his offensive spread yet, so for all I know he could be like a defensive Nidoking with, say, Toxic Spikes, and I wanted to get Slowking in before Toxic Spikes. So right here you can see he goes for the Poison Jab and he gets a crit, and this sucks because like I've got crit, so I'm not going to like complain about it, but the reason like why this is kind of unfortunate is, as you guys can see, that stat confirms his max attack, and it did 52%, so without the crit it would have done like 35, something around that range. And whilst I would have scouted, nonetheless, you guys are going to see right here, I do switch out. I know I can tank another Poison Jab, but I do predict him to have Mega Horn for stuff like my Reuniclus, my Slicking, and my Tangrowth. I would have switched out regardless, but the fact that he got a crit there means that, like with the Regenerator, I'm going to be a lower range of health than I would like to have been, which is going to come into play later on in the game. So now we just switch out here, go into Kyurem, knowing I can take a Mega Horn, and he's not going to Superpower, and even if he did, I do have the Chopper Berry. So Mega Horn does 37%, so I just take this opportunity to Roost up, just in case he wanted to Sucker, and Roost is my best play anyway, allowing me to be able to switch in later on in the match due to Rocks, as I don't have Defog on this team. So in comes the Guard, as now I just go into my counter, which is the Reuniclus. As you see, Reuniclus takes its Hyper Voice like a man. That is a max special attack Hyper Voice, and that only did 29% to this set. So yeah, the set coming through, but the problem is like it's quite passive up against this Guard. Like if this is like a if this is like a Carmine Guard, then like it's fine because I do have Scissor in the back. But I felt as though getting chip with Guard, with Reuniclus on this Guard was the most important, as this thing loses to the Nidoking, it loses to the Lipard. It traps the Registeel, as I said, but its main role is here to take on the Guard, so I'm not going to like, savor it just to get a bit of regen back. I'm just going to stay in and fire off some Shadow Balls. As you guys see here, we will go down to the next one, but there's no point in switching out. I do have my Mega Scizor to come in. And this player, Paul was thinking about this turn for a long time, as was I. Like, we're in a situation here where like he could well preserve Guard and just go into something like his Infernape on the potential Bullet Punch. But if I predict that and go for Roost or Superpower or something like that, then a Scizor becomes so much more of a threat to his team because it's so much closer, it's so much more healthier, and I still have I still have my Sleuking in the back to potentially take on the Infernape, depending on what set it is. So right here, I do just stay in a bullet punch. I'm not about to choke this game away, as I know that if he does go out into Infernape, I do have Slurking in the back. And he stays in and goes for something like the HP Fire. I think he went for the HP Fire there, or the Willow. I'm pretty sure he went for the HP Fire. Now, in comes the Infernape, and this could potentially spell like GG for us at this point, because if he's a setup Fernape, he can win here if I choke and switch out Sizzle. And the reason I say that is because if he's like a nasty plot variant, if he's any variant of if he's any setup variant of Infernape, to be honest, I will die. Like he'll kill the rest of my team, because Slaking is at a range where it will die to a +2 Glass Knot or a +2 Thunder Punch. So yeah, we can't really risk that here. I'm just going to stay and click Superpower, because if I do, like if he takes me out here with something like a Flare Blitz or a Flamethrower or something, then Slowking can come in and kill him with Scald. If he switches out, then I just switch out and I get more health, meaning that I have a much easier time like checking it later on in the match. So my play is definitely 100% sustaining, just click Superpower as he goes for the nasty plot, which was his play. That was how he was going to win the game, if he was going to, like he had to make that play right there. So we get that big Superpower off, and now he's in range to go down to a -1 bullet punch. So yeah, Sizzle putting in the work this game, like really putting in the work. Unfortunately, this Nidoking is outside of range of bullet punch at -1, so I do go out into my Slurking, knowing that I can just pivot around or slack Slurking, like if I need to. Like Slurking is the sack, because it loses to Lipard if I'm at low enough health not to be able to take a knockoff. And right here, he just goes for the Earthquake and crits me, but you know, it's whatever. He just takes me out here, as now I can go right out to my Kyurem, because I know that I do outspeed this thing for sure, as he's like max HP, max attack, and I can just fire off an Earth Power. I roost up here though. Whilst I could have fired off an Earth Power, I roost up here because, like, if I just Earth Powered his Registeel switch in, he could have just gone right out into Lipard the next turn and killed me with knockoff at that range of health. But if I'd roosted up that turn, like, I would have eventually beat this 1v1 if I kept on roosting on it. Like, if I got to a nice amount of health to be able to take a knockoff after I took down the Nidoking, and I knew he'd switch out to his Registeel here. And even if he didn't, like, I roost up to a point where Lipard can't kill me with anything, and I can win regardless, because Kyurem outspeeds both Nidoking and Registeel, and at this range of health, he's physically defensive Registeel, so we will go down to an Earth Power, as you guys see there. And now Lipard can come in. Even with a crit knockoff, like I calculated, like he can't kill me. As you guys see, he actually does crit the knockoff, which does 60%. But Ice Beam is going to take out Lipard because it's frail and Kyurem's strong. And Nidoking can just come in here. I just want to roost up in case he has Sucker Punch and crits me. But he just goes for the Earthquake there, so I know Sucker Punch won't be able to kill me from that range of health, and we get the win there. So that was a great win versus Paul, a great game I should say, versus my good friend Paul. Very down to the, like, definitely down to the wire. That Sizzle on Infernape play was definitely what secured it. Like if I had choked and switched out there, then I would have lost, like guaranteed. So yeah, props to Paul. Definitely kept me on my toes, as he always does. Guys, go and check out his channel and see his side of the battle for sure, as well as the rest of his content on the channel. As I said, he's in the CFA with me, and he's in the GPC, and he's doing really well there. He's just proving himself in that league, so awesome to see. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back soon with my NPL Week 10 match and more CFA, more CPC, so drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you guys thought of the match, all that good stuff. And if you guys aren't already subbed to my channel, feel free to subscribe. We recently hit 100, which is just amazing, so I'm really thankful for all my subscribers and all my friends. Yes, guys, I'll catch you later, and thanks for watching.